Okay, welcome back, guys. Let's get right into the stock market technical analysis. I'll go through the broad markets, we'll look at some individual trade ideas, and then I'll wrap up. Didn't put out a video yesterday. For one thing, I've been really busy this week. That should get a little bit easier for me tomorrow. My wife gets back in town. My kids are on summer break, so a little tough, but still trying to get these videos out for you guys. So we'll start off with triple Qs. So let's just look at the bigger picture, and then we'll kind of narrow it down. On the daily chart, again, you've got a former reaction high. All right, we pointed that out right there at about 372. About 372. Two reactions, two clean reactions on that former reaction high. So that's the level of resistance. We talked about that being key resistance right there. We popped it just briefly intraday. I think they opened it up and then it sold down, and it's been selling ever since. Okay, so we've definitely had kind of a pullback off that reaction, about almost 3% pullback from that former resistance level on the daily chart. All right, so that's that. We still have negative divergence on the daily chart, and if you look at the PPO, look, we've now confirmed that divergence. See, there's the PPO crossover. So that's a piece of the puzzle you want to look for. Again, when we had the divergence before, just recently, we didn't have that confirmation. We now have that. So that's one thing to look for on that. That's basically it on the daily chart. That's all I really see. And then here's your uptrend line. This is kind of the rally that's been taking place all year in triple Qs. All right, so you want to watch that. That is a key level of support. So big resistance overhead, big support in this upward trend line. So what I'm looking for as of right now is a pullback to that trend line. Okay, I think we'll probably hit it at about this level, anywhere from 348 down to about 346, about 347, anywhere right in there. I think we're going to get down there, hit that trend line, and then there should be a bounce there. I really would expect there for the buyers to step in right now there. So for me, I'm short right now, but I'm looking just for the short down to that trend line, probably cover that trade, and then ultimately could flip for a bounce if you guys are bullish. I'm not exactly, I'm not bullish yet, but if you want to be bullish, that's where you buy at. All right down there at support. Okay, so if anything, I'll just go flat. All right, on the trade. So that's it on the daily. Let me get down to the hourly, and then we'll kind of just look at what we have going on with the futures as well. On the hourly chart, recently we had this uptrend. All right, this was kind of your last leg, really last week or so. Made a new high, hit that key level of resistance, and that was a divergent high right there. Boom, negative divergence. That tells you that a pullback's likely. You look for a break of the trend. This is an hourly chart, so short-term trend lines, but basically going back to the 8th. You can see this was a clean trend line we broke, and we've really been selling down. All right, we're making lower highs and lower lows ever since. All right, now just short time frame stuff, but I don't think we've hit any real major levels of support yet. So just a little bounce today, which I think will get sold into. There's better support down here. You can see if I extend this out, just kind of show you guys here, better support right there at about 357.75. You can see on the hourly that was resistance, multiple reactions. So I like that as a support level where maybe you get a bounce from. And then there's obviously big support down at that trend line, okay? Somewhere down there. So that's your support, that's your resistance. I don't see any indication that we're not going to continue to sell off as of right now, after making a new divergent high on the daily chart and a new divergent high on the hourly chart. We're now confirming the bearish PPO crossover on the daily. To me, it looks like just a little dip buying today. It's pretty muted, really, the dip buying. It's not that impulsive. So looking for more downside on triple Qs. Let's look at the futures, just to you always want to align the futures with the triple Qs. Here's the Nasdaq futures. This one, we had a little downtrend right here. They've popped it briefly. Nothing that's crazy, but definitely, kind of popped it. We could go a little higher, but, I don't think we're going to go too much higher. There's some resistance on the futures right about there. Okay, so maybe they want to run it up to about that level, 15,260.75 or so, and then continue to roll over. I don't know. I think we're probably just going to roll over here, but when the little micro call stuff is really tough to make. So that's it. Nothing that I really want to stop out on that one. That's the hourly chart. On the daily chart, again, just the biggest thing to really look at is on the daily, the futures, they did burn through the divergence on the daily chart on the futures. So there it is. We've kind of made a new higher high in momentum on the Nasdaq futures. So that's something. That's definitely something to take note of. Bearish PPO crossover is about to happen right there, but we don't have that yet. Okay, so that is it on the futures. And then futures, big support right down here. So as I zoom out, you can see, kind of have to extend that out right there. Big support. So I think a pullback down to that trend line is justified. You can see some reactions right in here. So I think it probably falls in line if we're going to get the pullback with that area, somewhere right in there. Okay. So that would be my target for the short. So I'm not looking for a huge short right here off this trade. I mean, ultimately looking for a pullback to the trend line support and then cover, go flat, maybe go long, small amount for a potential bounce, but probably just cover and go flat. Okay. Semiconductors, semiconductors just kind of popped. The former reaction high is very similar to triple Qs. It's right here. It was sitting at about 503.24. They did pop that just briefly. All right, you can see just kind of barely popped it. But one of the key things, well, you didn't really have divergence. They did kind of burn through the divergence on that rally. So that's kind of, we'll see. But we are getting that pullback. Again, minimum pullback for this move is this trend line right here. So I think it's going to fall in line with about 445.82. That's key. That was resistance right in there. I think we'll probably have a drop down to there. Hit dual support. That's good support down there. So would likely want to cover any short down there. And if you break the trend line, great. All right. If you break it and start to head lower, then you can re-short. But once you get to major support, you want to cover at major support. So that's it on that one. And this is really dependent on NVIDIA because this is the largest one. And I just don't see anything in NVIDIA that tells me to short right here and now. We do have negative divergence on the RSI and the PPO. So this price action on the daily chart is a divergent high, telling me we're likely going to get a pullback. But there's no sell signal. There's no break of trendline support. You've got kind of former support right here at 406.20. Need to at least break that. And ultimately, you've got a gap to enter at 360, about 367. You enter that gap, you're probably going to go on to fill that gap. And that's it. But nothing on that one as of right now. Okay, and then you always want to align any kind of tech trade, long or short. You always want to align that with the FANG stocks. We'll start off with Amazon. So on Amazon, they're pumping Amazon today, rallying. It's up 3.8%. That's what I've noticed with these FANG stocks is basically the buyers of these, they just rotate from one to the other. They just kind of, money goes into that one, comes out of others, then they try to pump it up, pump the other one up. That's what they're doing today. On the hourly chart, this is just a back test though. See, you've got a pretty clean uptrend line here on this hourly chart. Towards the high, you started to put in that negative divergence, all right? Momentum dropping as it continued to rally. You broke trend. All right, you broke trend, and today a back test. So that's objective. That's an objective short right there on this back test. And I would expect that we get rejected from here and start to make a new lower low. All right, Amazon likely is coming down. Minimum target on this one's probably about 113.05. And then if I go back to the daily, potential trend line down here, and that would fall in line with about 103.58 or so from where we're at right now. All right, that's objective and to short right at the key levels. Google, let me go to GOGL. That's really the one I've been looking at recently. Not a whole lot. The only thing that I really see is, look, you had this support shelf right here, all right? And they held that for a while. Yesterday, it did break. Today, they're backtesting it, all right? They're ramping it up and backtesting it. And that was a former reaction high right there, all right? And then also there. So That's objective too. That's an objective short right there as well, because it's back testing as of right now. So Amazon and Google both testing resistance from below. Apple is still in this bearish rising wedge. All right, and that's basically it. Bearish rising wedge, negative divergence, no breakdowns, no sell signal on Apple. For the market to move, especially tech, to move lower in any meaningful way, this needs to trigger a sell signal, which would be a break. Right now, I think it's a break about 182. You start breaking that, you should start to head lower. But until that happens, no sell signal on Apple. Meta's got a same pattern, negative divergence on the daily chart, big bearish rising wedge pattern. It's really, like I told you guys in the last video, they can keep it in this wedge for a few more days, but ultimately we're really running close to the end of the road for this pattern, and it needs to, very likely going to break to the downside, run down and fill this gap at 214.54. All right. But no sell signal as of right now. So again, they can continue to kind of grind it within here for a few more days. And then Microsoft is obviously a heavy hitter in the triple Qs as well. It was testing the former all-time highs right there, and got rejected so far. I think there's some more downside here. I don't think you're going to have just a little pullback and then continue lower. But again, resistance right there about 348.67. I don't have much else to go off on Microsoft. It doesn't have the cleanest pattern here in this price action. It does have negative divergence, but not the cleanest pattern. So that's it. I'll just kind of watch some of these other ones. Oh, and then Tesla's one to kind of keep an eye on. Tesla, you can see here on the hourly chart, you've got an uptrend line right there. All right, this is going back since about the late May, so almost a month now. Is that right? Late May. So yeah, it's actually been happening for a little while here. Unless I don't know what I'm reading. Yeah, and then so there's your uptrend line, and then if I go down to the hourly, you can see the negative divergence that had been building. So it really started to show up right in here, divergent high and Baroque trend. All right, they're floating it today. It could backtest. Okay, that's completely possible. They might pump it and do a backtest. So keep an eye out for that. That's objective as a back test, if they do it. Otherwise, likely going to continue lower. So it's sell the rip, in this one. If it rips up to the back test, that's an opportunity to add or establish a short. And then obviously, as it continues to go down, rallies into resistance, should be shorted until we show signs of otherwise. There's a gap to fill right down here. So that's my target on that one for right now, is about 235. And DraftKings daily chart, you've got bearish rising wedge pattern there. You've got negative divergence on the daily. And as I zoom in, you did have a sell signal, all right? Just a couple days ago, that broke. The last 3 days, they rallied up for a back test. This is objective short right here as well. So I think it's objective to short, looking for more downside. If you want to be conservative, you can wait for them to take out the lows, the most kind of recent lows, which are really right about here, which is about 24.18, but it is objective here. They are backtesting resistance, and it did break. It wasn't super impulsive of selling, but it did, it did break, and that was a drop of about, it's about 3.5-4% that day. So, okay, that's what I have on that one. Let's look at wheat. Continuing to rally slightly, still really at resistance right here. So wheat's got, you can see they did pop it up near the 200 today, but ultimately still holding this resistance about 731. So I'm looking for maybe a minor pullback and then continued upside. This one's by the dip. All right, wheat just broke out of a big, long, bullish falling wedge pattern on the daily with bullish divergence. So this one should continue to rally, but you're going to get dips along the way, and we're at resistance now. So that's my read on that one. Gold, this is GDX, the gold miners. So you can see here on the daily chart, I'm coming off the lows back in September of 2022. And you can see there's a reaction, there's a reaction. So I only have two on this trend line. And then you can see we're kind of potentially making a third right there. You got the 200-day just underneath. I could see them just dip down, hit the 200, and then recover. But this does look like relatively decent support, all right? And it's not super well defined because I only have 2 reactions, and I don't know if this is going to act as a third reaction. I prefer to kind of wait to see if I get that reaction. So far, it does look like it's holding that as a support level. You also have the 200 just underneath, so there is a decent amount of support here. I do think we probably hold around this area, but we'll have to continue to watch. You want to watch the dollar futures. And I haven't been looking at the dollar too much, but again, the dollar, you've got some support right in here, right in there on the daily chart. So I don't know, maybe a little bit more downside in the dollar, but yeah, the dollar also does have bullish divergence on the daily chart. You can see the momentum has been building. All right, this is a divergent low there. That's a divergent low. So we have, if the dollar starts to rise, that will be bearish for gold. It should be, at least. And that should be bearish for the stock market. So I'm going to just hold off on the gold trades for right now. I don't have a super good read on them. I know there's a lot of people interested in that, but as of right now, I just don't have a good read on it. So probably just wait for some more data to show up. Okay, that's all I got for today. I'm going to get the video out and catch you guys on the next one. Thanks.